Wednesday. I got the day off, just hanging out here. This is Liberty Station, San Diego, not too far from the airport. You might hear a plane take off. It's basically Point Loma, San Diego. It's pretty deserted out here. Usually before the shutdown, even during the week, there was people out here shooting hoop. A lot of people are still staying in. You'd figure with so many people out of work, you'd have this park pretty crowded, but let me just show you the background here. And it's pretty deserted. A lot of people are still scared. Stay tuned for some news next. Thank you for watching. Let's get right into it, everybody. Hey, JJ here. More than half of people with credit card debt are going to need more government stimulus to avoid defaulting and missing their credit card payment. Just the minimum payments. So this is going to be an absolute disaster. We know the politicians are arguing back and forth, left versus right, how much stimulus there's going to be. You see both sides trying to throw a lot of other goods and a lot of other provisions into the package, so it's causing a big delay. In the meantime, the airliners are going to get a huge bailout, according to what we hear just recently out of the White House, and there's no delay, you notice, with these big corporate industry-wide bailouts. But when it comes to giving money to the people, isn't it interesting how there's always these big delays? But let's take a look. A lot of credit card holders are going to be in big trouble if the stimulus is not handed out quick enough and if it's not enough just to make their minimum credit card payments. Let's take a look at an article right here. And this is a Bloomberg article via MSN.com. Now it points out here that since the illness shutdown, credit card debt has actually gone down some. Now, we are still at all-time high levels of credit card debt, even worse than the financial crisis levels, and all types of debt are higher now. Even before the shutdown, debt is higher total in all categories, higher than the financial crisis. Credit card debt, student loan debt, auto loan debt, mortgage debt, you name it. But it's amazing how credit card debt has actually went down some during the shutdown, and it really tells you that if people really pulled back on unnecessary spending, they might be able to keep themselves out of debt. When you take away the vacations, the unnecessary trips, and the cruises, and the airfares, and all of the entertainment that people are not doing now, all the concerts, and things that don't seem like really a lot, but when you add them up over a year, people are spending several $1,000s on unnecessary entertainments and trips. But we could very soon see a tsunami of credit card defaults and late payments, and even more government stimulus may not be enough. An excerpt out of this article. Even if Congress passes a new rescue package with more unemployment benefits, and the cumulative effect of ongoing economic catastrophe may finally trigger the default deluge, a new study reveals. More than half of consumers with credit card debt say they will need more bailout money to make minimum payments. Just to make the minimum payments, we're going to need more bailout money. And also, I should add to this, we reported on this just a few episodes ago. Credit card companies, banks are lowering credit limits, they're closing unused accounts, and they're making it much more difficult for people to just endlessly swipe these cards. So that could be another reason why we're seeing the actual credit card debt drop somewhat. But we need to ask ourselves, would the credit card debt have dropped if it were not for the stimulus checks that have been sent out, the extended unemployment benefits which have ended, that we still are not close to seeing a deal on? And I've had a lot of people asking me lately, hey, should I pay off this huge credit card debt, $40,000, $50,000, $60,000? So you see a lot of people are taking their stimulus checks, the people that did get them, their unemployment checks, and they're using it to pay down this credit card debt. So you see at the end of the day, even with stimulus to the people, it still goes to the banks in most cases. Most people are not putting away savings, and it may feel good to pay down the debt, but again, it's going to the banks. Many of the same banks that are getting unlimited stimulus injections in the first place and can loan out endless money that they don't have to begin with. So again, a lot of people are asking the question now more than ever, should I even bother trying to pay down this debt, or should I put some money away to have it for, the necessities, food, and just being able to keep a roof over our head. And I do think a bankruptcy tsunami is also on the way when this house of cards finally is allowed to collapse. And this is out of NASDAQ.com. 60% of Americans want expanded unemployment benefits extended. So they want to keep these $600 unemployment bonuses. And the 60% number, that tells you how many people are likely out of work and really need that extra money. Okay, we talked about this before, that the real unemployment number is closer to 50% when you look at all the people that don't qualify as being officially unemployed. But the economic situation in this country cannot be solved with more bailouts. With no bailouts, this house of cards is going to come crashing down sooner rather than later. Even with bailouts, it's still going to come crashing down. It's just going to happen later. Right? There's no getting out of this with government stimulus. Right? More stimulus checks are not going to help this problem long term. There needs to be a collapse. There needs to be a reset. There needs to be a reconfiguration of this entire financial economic system. And as the saying goes, give a man a fish and he'll eat for a day. Teach a man to fish and he'll eat for a lifetime. People do not know how to be useful on their own, how to be self-employed, how to come up with your own work instead of being reliant on a check or a company or an employer to tell them what to do and give them a paycheck. But even bigger than that is the fact that people need this stimulus because the cost of living is just too much. Why is the cost of living so much? Because the banking system, which is basically insolvent, is being propped up and it's causing inflation. We just talked about in a previous episode that the Fed has vowed to focus on pushing prices higher, focusing on inflation. They are afraid of deflation. Deflation is what should happen when people don't have money to spend. Right? But instead, they're propping up the banks. Banks can continue to lend money they don't have through fractional reserve lending. Now they don't have to have any money in requirement, so it's not even a fraction in reserves that are required. And they're keeping this entire inflationary economic environment propped up. They are terrified of deflation. Right? But again, deflation should happen when there's millions of people out of work. And with the reduced spending power, you should see prices fall. And guess what? When prices fall to fair value, which we've never seen here in this country, maybe 100 years ago, before 1913, we've never seen fair value. We don't know what actual purchasing power of Americans would put these prices. And it would be much easier for people to get by if we actually had a real supply and demand or a real free market, which, again, we haven't had here in decades. Recent WAPO article here via MSN: for the unemployed, rising grocery prices stretch budgets even more. We are seeing inflation. Is the Fed going to admit that? No, because they look at a small basket of indicators as far as the official inflation numbers. They're saying there's little or no inflation. But when it comes to everyday expenses that most Americans have to pay for, you are seeing inflation, rising food prices, energy costs. We just talked about that a few episodes ago as well. Automobile prices haven't dropped anywhere near where they should have dropped based on this shutdown and unemployment surge. All right, we've got a group of monopoly men that have decided that deflation is bad and that inflation is good. It's absolutely insane, but yet nobody talks about it. All right, we're going to wrap this one up here with the market shot. But first, Bank of America sees gold hitting $3,000 an ounce, silver at $50 an ounce. And I think that's just in the near term. I think we're going to see those numbers exceeded here in the very near future as out-of-control central bank just continues to print nonstop, propping up the markets. In the meantime, the wealthiest people in the world, such as Bezos, just sold about $3 billion in Amazon stock, and that was just a small fraction of his total holdings. It's absolutely insane how we're seeing the wipeout of the middle class and the poor and small businesses, and the rich continue to get richer faster versus any time in history. So under the current administration since 2016, we've seen the wealth transfer get kicked into overdrive, and the rich are getting richer faster than ever, and the poor and the middle class again get wiped out. The working class is going to be completely annihilated unless some major structural changes happen. We've been hearing talks about a tax holiday. Getting rid of the entire tax system would be a move in the right direction, but I don't see any of these puppets of the bankers. I don't see any of these puppets, including the one that's in office right now. I don't see him doing any changes. I see a lot of talk, but at the end of the day, are people doing better now versus 4 years ago, or are they doing worse? Right? And you're going to see a lot of people pointing the finger in a lot of different directions, a lot of blame, but that's the bottom line. Right? It's the puppets and the puppet masters. The puppet masters are the people at the top, the bankers, the monopoly men, the fiat currency creators. They created out of nothing. All right, so I'd like to hear from you on this one. What do you think? Are we going to see a tsunami of credit card defaults, or is something huge going to happen, something that hardly anyone expects? Across the board debt forgiveness, stimulus checks that are higher than anyone expected, maybe $5,000 per person, maybe $10,000. Let me know what you think down in the comments. Finally, the markets here ending on August 5th. All major indexes in the green. We've got the S&P 500 up 0.64%. Dow Jones up over 1%, over $21,200. The NASDAQ continues to the all-time highs there, 10,998. Russell 2000 at 1546. That's a gain of nearly 2%. Crude oil breaks $42. There's the inflation for you. Gold. Let's talk about gold here to the far right. 2056, holding strong above 2,000, on its way to 3,000 in the very near future. Silver, $27.20, another 1% gain here today. All right, everybody, that's it for today's report. Brace yourselves, position yourselves, prepare yourselves for this storm. We're just now entering it. And thank you for supporting me. Thank you for being here. I'm not sure how much longer channels like mine are going to be able to stay on this platform. Thank you, everybody that came over to support me on Patreon. Thank you so much. No matter what happens, I'll continue to put out content, and you'll always find me over there regardless of what platform I'm going to be primarily putting out content on. Thanks everybody again for watching. Bye for now.